How does this scene become this scene? You can tell a lot from the top of Fitzhugh Lane Hill. What is the sky saying? What flag is flying at the Coast Guard? Are you on the safe side of the breakwater? It's that line of breakers straight ahead next to the spit of land. That's where the ocean and the harbor become one.
Every time I see a boat go by and go outside the breakwater, I know that there's a chance, some kind of a chance, that they won't come back.
I like to think about how these fuzzy, grizzled guys, you know, the ones that belong on a fish stick box, they seem to have a hint of apprehension on their faces. It could all go wrong so quickly, like it did for Howard Blackburn.
On this very spot in Gloucester Harbor, January 25th, 1883, Howard Blackburn left on the Grace Alfiers to go dory fishing.
Wait, before we go out to sea with Blackburn, you gotta understand what it's like to be in a dory. My buddies down in the harbor, they left a Blackburn-like dory for you. Walk towards the water down the granite stairs. And as you walk, imagine it's a cold January morning and you're headed towards the Grace Alfiers. You can't see the harbor for all the masts ahead of you, and every sound and motion around you is an effort to prepare men and their boats for their trips out to sea.
The shore was packed with wharves and shipyards, marine railways, chandleries and sail lofts, riggers, rope walks, net and twine factories, smithies, coopers and box makers, ice houses, warehouses, gas houses, paint shops, machine shops, sheds, stables.
Walk down the hill and across the little road. You're going to go out just to the left of the Red Maritime Heritage Center. And then walk towards the docks, keeping the dory shop on your left. You're headed towards a dory sitting on the dock. Play the next video when you're standing next to the dory. It's a 16-foot rowboat the fishermen use to spread their nets. Then you're gonna row with Howard Blackburn as he heads out to sea. Okay, you should be next to the dory. Go ahead, get inside and have a seat up front. Feel free to set your phone in the little box at the front of the dory. You can watch the video while you row. For centuries, Gloucester fishermen fished from these little boats. The dories were lowered into the water, and in teams of two, the fishermen rowed away from the schooner. They knew that once they left the mothership, anything could happen.
Howard Blackburn was out in the Grand Banks. He was in this 16-foot dory with Tom Welsh. They're out looking, the storm blows up, the temperature's getting colder and colder, and they spent the night. They couldn't make it back to the mother vessel, and in the morning, it was gone. Howard Blackburn, he started to row. And the boat, it was taking water on, and they had to take turns bailing. And Howard took his wool mitts off and set them down in the water. And when Tom Welsh went to bail, the first thing he bailed out was those mitts. Tom looked up and said, "Howard, your hands, they're freezing up." And Howard looked down, and they were. He did the only thing he could. He froze his fingers on the oars in an O so he could still row.
Go ahead, lock your hands on the oars and imagine rowing and rowing, with hands stuck to the oars. You can almost feel that numbness in your face, your fingers. Now hold that feeling and take a postcard. Whoever takes the picture should step back from the boat, and you should hold those oars like they're your only hope for survival. It'll be like an SOS card from the boat, and you'll relive how numb Blackburn must have been, physically and mentally. Okay, good job. So here's how the trip ended.
Tom Welsh perished in the storm, froze to death. Howard Blackburn started rowing, and he would row, and one part of the oar would chunk against his hand, and it would knock off a piece of flesh the size of a 50-cent piece. It would just bleed up and freeze, and he kept rowing.
With his dory mate Tom lying dead in the boat next to him, and his fingers literally freezing off, Howard rowed onward, not sure if he would ever reach land. Go to the next track to hear what happened next. Okay, so remember that fisherman shack I was telling you about? Well, now we're gonna go inside. So put down those oars, take a look around, and make your way there. Pause the video till you get there. If it's locked, there's a code you can use. It's actually the number of miles from here that our story ends. Once you're in the shack, take a look around. Have a seat. After 5 days at sea, Blackburn finally made it to shore in Newfoundland, 1,005 miles from here. The first thing he saw was a dock and a fishing shack, just like this one.
There was no one there, but there was a river, and he was able to row up that river to where the people saw him and said, "Where have you come from, man?" And he said, "On the Grand Banks, I was fishing."
Well, you can imagine the shock. A worn, tattered man in a tiny rowboat comes up to your dock in the dead of winter, half dead from half a world away. What would Blackburn have felt like? Frostbitten, bearded, exhausted? Hold that thought and let's create another postcard. It will be your impression of Blackburn when he was fresh off the boat in Nova Scotia. Blackburn was able to recover. A family called the Lishmans took Howard in for the winter and tried to heal his hands and feet.
He'd lost the fingers on both hands, half of each thumb, the toes on both feet, but he survived. He came back to Gloucester. He couldn't fish anymore, he had no more fingers, but they gave him $500 from the Fisherman's Fund to start up his own tavern. People would come in just to order a beer, to watch him make change with that half a thumb.
I think Blackburn must have proved something that the people in Gloucester needed to hear. Our strength has no limits. We live in the lap of an unpredictable sea, but it prepares us for anything. And Blackburn did end up doing just about everything. He took 2 solo trips across the Atlantic, a quest for gold during the Klondike Gold Rush. It's all in a book, in this chest. It's called The Lone Voyager. It makes life up here, in those moments when you feel adrift, meaningful.
Howard Blackburn embodies that work ethic of Gloucester fishermen.
They never know whether they're going to come back from this voyage or not.
Extremely resilient. I love that word. I think that sums up Gloucester people really well.
The salt of the earth. People who go fishing, people, blue-collar people are the people who keep this country going.
And that's what, Gloucester's working waterfront people. We're workers. We're proud of that. We're proud of our maritime heritage.
And you should be proud of the posts you created from Gloucester. After this video, you will have the option to share your postcards on Facebook. Or go into your photo library and share them from there. Who knows? Maybe future generations will discover them as antiques one day.